Hey everybody, it's your old pal Mike. I hope you're happy, healthy, and safe, and welcome back to the channel. We live in a world absolutely brimming with aftermarket options for offset guitars, from pickups to wiring to finishes to pickguards to bodies to vibratos and yes, even bridges. And while I'm a huge proponent of the original Jazzmaster and Jaguar bridge design, my favorite of the available aftermarket bridges is of course the Mastery Bridge. This space-age bridge was designed by luthier John Woody Woodland in 2008 with a lot of feedback from some players that you've definitely heard of. It's built in small batches by a dedicated team in Minnesota and boasts a number of thoughtful alterations to the floating bridge design that make it a great option for folks looking for stability and sustain. For example, the deep V grooves in its two gently curved, chrome-plated brass saddles keep the strings in place, while the oversized posts on the bridge base couple with the body inserts for increased transference. Like I said, there are a lot of good options out there, so feel free to explore. But when it comes to my own guitars, I keep coming back to the Mastery because, well, I just like what it does to the guitar. It's not because I think it's an essential, across-the-board upgrade that will instantly solve every conceivable problem in your life. It's just a damned good bridge. To that, there are a number of complaints that folks level at the bridge that, well, over the years I have found to have been largely caused not by the bridge itself, but rather by the way it was installed. Problems with the guitar's string geometry, poor setups, too much break angle, not enough break angle, and even just bad practices on the part of techs who may not be familiar with offset guitars. Today, we're going to take a deep dive on Mastery Bridge installation and try to correct some of the most common setup issues that I have encountered by working on so many over the years. Before we begin, a quick shout out to my supporters on Patreon. We've got a great inclusive Discord community going, as well as outtakes, monthly Q&As, work in progress updates, and much more. If you're interested in finding out how you too can support the channel, please click the link in the description down below. On to the work. Now, first things first, before you do anything, make notes of how your guitar is currently set up. Action, relief, intonation, bridge height, string gauge, pickup height, all of that good stuff. The reason? We're going to be undoing all of that in the interest of safety, which includes removing the guard and pickups. People always ask me if it's really worth getting the Mastery M1 kit, which includes the bridge itself, as well as a set of Mastery's expertly made body inserts, or thimbles as we call them colloquially. The answer to this depends on the manufacturing tolerances of the stock body inserts, and in most cases Fender, well, there's a bit of variance. The fit between the Mastery posts and these thimbles is crucial to getting the most out of the bridge, so if you aren't certain, order the kit. For players with import guitars, say CIJ or MIJ, you'll want the M2, which includes a second set of oversized bridge posts to mate with the oversized Japanese thimbles. Models with an adjust-o-matic or tune-o-matic bridge will require a complete fill and drill procedure, like on this classic player. On this pink Chicago Music Exchange player Jazzmaster, we'll need to remove the stock thimbles as this particular model uses a set with a much smaller interior diameter, meaning that the Mastery simply won't fit. Now, there are many ways to remove body inserts, but this is how I do it. First, I heat up the thimbles using a soldering iron to release any finish that may have bonded with the metal inserts, or glue in the event that they've been installed that way. I then insert an implement with a similar shape or width to the interior of the thimbles, in this case an old screwdriver, then back them out by gently twisting as I lift. Once I've got them backed out a little bit, I'll create a fulcrum with a wood block and a screwdriver to pry them all the way out. I make sure to then grit them with pliers as they're still very hot from the soldering iron. The new Mastery inserts have an outer diameter of 3/8 of an inch, which is ever so slightly larger than the stock inserts, so here I'm using a drill press and a 3/8 inch bit to bring them to the correct width. In a pinch, you can do this with a hand drill and reverse drilling using the 3/8 inch bit. That's a fine way to do it, but I prefer to use a drill press when I'm able. Once the holes are the right size, I use a rubber mallet or my dead blow fretting hammer to tap them down into place. The thimbles should fit snugly, but not so snugly that they're difficult to tap into place. Now, this guitar is getting a few other things done to it while it's here, including new pickups, so I'll do that and we'll meet up afterward. Once you're ready, installing the Mastery is a cinch. Simply loosen the post bolts located on either side of the bridge base so that the posts dangle freely, then drop the bridge into place. Then, using the included medium 5/64 inch wrench, retighten those bolts to secure the posts. This is a very important yet sometimes overlooked step that can cause excessive rattle. I can't tell you how many times I've had a guitar brought to me that was plagued with mechanical buzz that turned out to be loose post bolts. One note, if there's any shifting once tightened, that means the post height screws aren't adjusted to the same height. We'll get back to that in a minute. Overall bridge height is set by the screws embedded in the bridge posts, adjusted with the smallest of the 3 included wrenches. The saddles themselves are for finer height adjustment, but more importantly, setting radius. So get your bridge where you want it and fine-tune from there. It's a good idea to have your bridge as level to the body as possible, neither tilted toward the bass or treble side. Too much roll on one side or the other can cause fit or rattle issues that can make adjustment tricky, as the bridge is meant to fit snugly into those body inserts. The Mastery bridge is designed to sit lower on the body than the stock bridge, which requires increased height, break angle, and downward force to remain stable. However, it isn't meant to be decked against the body, which decreases downward force and break angle, and simply doesn't give you the best playing experience. In my experience, the Mastery sounds and works best when it's between 2 and 4 millimeters above the pickguard. Actually, Woody and I have a friendly disagreement about this. He says 2, and I say 3. I'm afraid we'll never see eye to eye on that fraction of a difference. I do want to take a moment to address the notion that the Mastery eliminates the need for shims altogether, which simply is not true. I'm not really sure where this idea comes from, as it isn't a stated benefit of the bridge, but while your Mastery may not need as extreme neck angle overall, some pitchback is still beneficial for your offset guitar. Shimming not only increases downward force on the bridge, which is great for transference. I have personally been to shows where someone I know who uses a shimless Mastery-equipped Jazzmaster still skipped his 12-gauge strings right out of the saddles with heavy picking, so please shim your necks. But still, in the case of certain models with angled neck pockets, there is such a thing as too much tilt back for a Mastery bridge. With American Pro, American Original, and converted classic players, I often find that reducing the neck angle via reverse shimming or putting a shim in the headstock side of the neck pocket can be beneficial. Here's a shot of an American Original Jazzmaster that I worked on not too long ago, which had far too much bridge height for the Mastery to be stable. Next to it is a shot of Pancake's bridge, which is about 3 millimeters above the pickguard. If you've got a Mastery bridge that's sticking that high off the body, I highly encourage you to reduce the angle of your neck and thus the overall height of the bridge. With the overall height taken care of, it's time to fine-tune action and radius using the saddle height adjustment screws. The saddles need to be high enough to clear the front shelf of the bridge plate, but not so high that they sit at an extreme upward angle. As a side note, the earliest Mastery bridges did indeed have angled intonation screw anchors for this purpose, but that feature was quickly removed. To set your radius properly, it's best to use understring radius gauges like these StewMac tools that I'm using here. This allows me to match the curve of the strings to that of my fretboard. A mismatched radius means that certain strings will be farther away from the fretboard than others, making it more difficult to set up and play. However, some players do prefer this, so, to each their own. Me, I will take a near-perfect radius match every single time. I set the radius by inserting the radius gauge underneath the strings, which is vital for matching the part of the string that actually touches the frets to their curvature. I adjust the saddle screws until each string follows the gauge precisely. The Mastery saddles are also gently curved to allow for a precise radius match from 7 1/4 all the way up to 16 inches. This fretboard is 9 1/2 inches, so that's what I'll aim for. With the radius matched, it's time to intonate the guitar. To properly intonate a Mastery, you'll need the largest included Allen key, that's 3/32, to move the saddle backward and forward using the adjustment screws located at the back of the bridge. Make sure to always use a fresh, unplayed set of strings for this job, as any amount of play wear can leave divots on the bottoms of the strings, which makes it more difficult or even impossible to achieve proper intonation. I tune the guitar, then fret at the 12th fret and compare that to the harmonic at the same position. If the note is sharp, I move the saddle backward to lengthen the string's speaking length, flat, and it goes forward to shorten. I begin with the low E string and then move to the treble side of the board. One thing to consider is the overall placement of your saddles. They should be relatively centered on the bridge base, and having them either all the way forward or all the way back to achieve reasonable intonation could point to a number of other issues. For one, the bridge location or scale length could be off, which sadly can indeed happen on production instruments. Or the guitar could have too much neck angle or not enough, which causes the saddles to sit at the extremes of their range of adjustment. Remember, intonation is a function not only of saddle position but of string height. The farther your strings have to travel from their open position to the fret, well, the more your fingers can pull them sharp when fretting a note. There's also another wrinkle in that the overall height of the bridge itself can affect where the point of intonation occurs. For this reason, it's important to be aware of the guitar's overall geometry as you work. There's one last step I take which may or may not be necessary on your own instrument, and that is lubrication. Now, the Mastery saddles have a proprietary hard chrome plating that reduces friction and heat buildup, and makes them very good for tuning stability. Even so, we're still talking about metal-on-metal contact here, so I like to finish by applying some lubricant to every point of contact on the string's vibrational and playable length. And for that, as I've recommended so many times before, I use lip balm. I prefer Burt's Bees or chapstick personally, especially because of the fun scents they come in, but it's also cheap and plentiful, so it's easy to find at any retail counter. I apply a little bit to the area where the string and saddle meet, and also in the slots of the nut, then carefully wipe away the excess with a cloth or a Q-tip. Then I actuate the vibrato a few times and go on my merry way. One final thought. I recommend blue Loctite as a fix for wandering screws on just about every bridge I encounter, and sometimes that can be the case for Mastery hardware. This isn't necessarily a failing of the bridge or the design, it's simply the nature of screw production and what happens when guitar hardware deals in micro tolerances. And that's not to imply that I use it on every bridge I encounter, but sometimes it does help. But it's also worth noting that Mastery Bridge has indeed addressed these concerns in recent years by using a new type of screw and insert that keeps the threads in place. So if you have a newer bridge, you should be fine without the blue stuff. With all of that said, it's time to have some fun, and I do want to let you know that, my god, I had so much fun with the CME Jazzmaster. There's some things about this model that I really like, especially the shell pink finish and the non-matching white headstock. I think that is just a smart look. Can't get enough of it. I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I hope that it's been helpful and informative for those of you looking to install a Mastery bridge of your very own. Shout out to my supporters on Patreon, link in the description below, as well as links to Mastery's wonderful hardware. In any case, I hope you're taking care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you in the next video.